Right, Doc Harris, the Fisherman, had a request to break this one down a little bit. It is kind of fun. This is one of those tunes that, I don't know a lot of the history of it, but it feels like it's one of those later Monroe tunes that he wrote. Northern White Clouds, which I'll get to later, and Old Dangerfield, that really kind of explored major minor stuff. So, that's the way this one feels to me. I think it's a later Monroe tune. It's in the key of G minor, which there's a number of tunes that he wrote that are in G minor. And like many of his tunes, this one kind of has a sassy disregard for the difference between a major and a minor. So because it does hopscotch in the B part, it hopscotches from a G minor to a G major. So I'm going to go through the rhythm first. The A part is pretty straightforward. It's just a G minor and a D. That's all it is. So it's G minor, and you can form G minor several ways. The easy, quick way, the way that I will normally do it, is a middle finger on the 3rd fret of the G string, the ring finger on the 5th fret of the delta string, index finger on the 1st fret of the alpha string. You can kind of think of it, if you make your 3-finger G, slide these 2 fingers down a fret. You want to retain that G note, that one note. You can also do it with a 4-finger chord. It's a bit of a reach. You can just drop your index finger down from a 4-finger G. Just drop your index finger down at 1 fret. And there you have it. But I usually do it here. So the A part again is D, G minor, and then the B part, it starts on a C major, and then here's where it goes to G major. Instead of the G minor, it doesn't go back to the G minor, it goes to the G major. To the D, now G minor, C, G major, a D, G minor, do it again, C, G major, D, G minor, C major, C major to G major, D major to G minor. So it bounces back and forth. You got to stay on your toes there. I wanted to mess that up. So doing the whole thing rhythmically, it's G and D, G minor, D major, G minor, C major, G major, D delta, G minor, C major, G major, D major, and back to G minor. And that's the rhythm to Doc Harris, the Fisherman. And once you have that down, once you have that rhythm in your head, a lot of times, for me, working out a lead, obviously I can't do it well. I can't do it at all and have something that is anything close to the melody until I understand the rhythm. So once you understand the rhythm here, then it all comes and makes sense, because you're going to be playing predominantly, since G minor is the relative minor of B flat, this is going to feel like you're playing, in a sense, plays like you're playing in B flat, which is one of the beauties of some of these Monroe tunes that are in G minor. So getting right into the, one thing that you may want to do to get yourself thinking about this one is to get a G minor arpeggio in your head. So start with an open G string, 3, open delta, 5 on delta, 1 on alpha, 5 on alpha, and then 3 on echo. Get that in your head, in your ear. And then same with the D. Start with the open delta string, 4, open alpha, 5, 5 to 2 on echo, 5 on echo. Do the same thing in C. Whoops. Start on 5 on golf, 2 on delta, 5, 3 on alpha, open echo, and shift your hand up a little bit to get index 3 on echo, and then reach way up to 8 with your pinky. And get it in both directions. Get those arpeggios down, because those will help you as we get through this. To start this tune, it starts with a kind of typical riff. And again, this is my interpretation of the tune. Some players, and there is definitely some beauty to doing this, and I do it more rarely than I probably should, but some players will sit down and they will listen with a slowdowner to get every single solitary note correct the way Bill Monroe played it, or whoever's playing the song that they're trying to learn. And I will do that. Try to get it note for note on some things, but almost typically I'll find my own way to play the tune, and it's usually a matter of what I hear in my ear combined with what is easier on my poor old hands. So this is kind of my interpretation of Doc Harris. I start with a riff that runs up. It basically runs up an octave from the D note, open D note, to the D note on the 5th fret of the alpha string. Whoops. Yeah. So it walks up, starts on open delta, 3, 5, and then to open alpha, 1, 3, and then there's where I land on the 5 on the D note. And you can do it with a small D chord. I'm sorry, a small G chord or G minor. So middle finger on 5, index finger on 3 on alpha on echo. And so this has a lot of repeating notes in it. Then to 1 on alpha, and then to 5 on golf. And I'll hit a number of those notes. So there's a whole lot of that in this tune. that's the first passage. Passage is where it's on the D chord, and there's a couple ways that this D chord can be approached, and I'll approach it in the A because it has the same passage in both the A part and the B part. You know, I'll do it a couple different ways. One way is I'm basically doubling each note. Open delta, 4, open alpha, 3, 5, and back to 3, back to open, and then back to 4 on delta, and then back to then resolve on the 5 on the G note. That's one way. Another way is so that's open delta. So it starts out the same. 4, and then open alpha, 3. It's 3 to open. It's 3 open, 4 on delta, and the 5. So that's two different ways, and you kind of explore. Once you get those arpeggios down, you can kind of explore. You know a couple things. You're on a D note, so you want to hit D chord arpeggios, and you know you want to end up resolving back on the G minor, which will bring you to a G. You want to ultimately resolve onto a G note. So the two ways I showed you, again, and then the second way. That when you resolve back on the G minor, resolve with a double stop. So index on 1 on the alpha and ring on 5 on delta. So that's half of the A part, and it just repeats that over and over. So it says the first half and the second half are very similar, and you can kind of mix them up. And then when you get to the B part, there's a couple ways. You remember, you're going to start on the C chord. So doing just kind of typical Monroe licks, one way to approach it is that very typical Monroe lick. Start on the 5 on the Gulf, to index on the index on 2 on delta, 2, 3, and then make your little C chord here with ring finger on 5 on delta and a middle finger on 3 on alpha. And then we're going to reverse that lick when we go to the G major. Remember, this is where the G major is. So So make your little G chord up here with middle ring finger on 3 on delta, and middle on, I'm sorry, that's ring finger on 5 on alpha, and middle finger on 3 on echo. And then go slide index from 1 to 2, which kind of emphasizes the fact that you're on the major, because that's the minor note. The fretted 1 on alpha is the flatted 3rd, which makes it a minor. So emphasize it that you're coming up to a major, and then make your double stop because you're resolving on this 5th fret of the delta, which is a G note. So those two together. And now I'm back to the D, and I can use any one of those D arpeggios. And then I got to resolve right back to the minor here. Another way that I'll play this on the C is so I start with a C formation here that's index on the 2nd fret of the delta, middle finger on 3 on alpha. Slide into it. You know, you got to play with power to play Monroe. And then slide up to the C chord on the alpha and echo string. So that's ring way up here on 7 on alpha and index on 3 on echo. And I'm kind of cheating to get up there. It's not really cheating. I'm putting my middle finger on the 5. Before I slide, my middle finger comes down on 5 on alpha and slides up to that 7th. You can use that same G portion, G major, and then the D portion. And there's another way that I'll throw in on the D. So I'm starting with the D formation. Let's go through that. I'm starting with the D formation, middle finger on 4 on the delta, and ring finger on 5 on the alpha. So look at the right hand. I'm using that pattern. We've talked about this before. And then on the left hand, I'm just sliding it up. So that 2nd position is middle finger on 5 on delta and ring finger on 7 on alpha. 3rd position is slide that whole thing up 2 frets. So my middle finger is on 7 on delta, and my ring finger is up on 9 on alpha. around Doc Harris, the Fisherman. That's about 20 minutes a lesson there, so that should give you plenty to chew on. And if you have questions on specific parts, don't hesitate to ask.